Tonight, the Met's missed opportunities to catch Wayne Couzens before he became a killer. He's just been jailed for an extra 19 months for flashing 3 women. One was just days before he murdered Sarah Everard.
The fact that no police came to find him or his black car to question him about these incidents can only have served to confirm and strengthen in the defendant's mind a dangerous belief in his invincibility.
His victims say their complaints were not taken seriously enough. Today, the Met Police apologised. Also ahead, the biggest hike in a decade. Your tube and bus fares have gone up today, but Mayor Sadiq Khan says his hands are tied. Could some of Beyonce's gigs at Tottenham Stadium be called off because of Haringey Council?
And there'll be singing, there'll be dancing and there'll be cake. Join me at the Noel Coward Theatre for the opening night of the Great British Bake Off, the musical.
Good evening. He had a dangerous belief in his power to dominate and abuse women without being stopped. Those were the words of the judge today as Wayne Couzens was sentenced to 19 months in prison after admitting 3 counts of indecent exposure. The former Metropolitan Police officer flashed women on 3 separate occasions in the months before he went on to kidnap, rape and murder Sarah Everard. All 3 women reported him to police, but he was never questioned. Today, the Met apologise, as Divya Kohli reports.
Another day in court for Wayne Couzens, another day of details into his grotesque behaviour. Today, he was sentenced to 19 months for 3 counts of indecent exposure. Some of them took place just weeks before he abducted, raped and murdered Sarah Everard in March 2021. In harrowing accounts described in court, 3 of Couzens' victims talked of how their normal, everyday lives had been taken from them. PC Wayne Couzens was supposed to be on duty, working from home in Deal, when the first incident happened on the 13th of November 2020. He flashed a female cyclist who was travelling down a rural narrow lane in Dover, just a few miles from where he would later take Sarah Everard after kidnapping her. Today, the cyclist's words were read out in court. She said, "The horror of what happened to me will remain with me for the rest of my life." A few months later, on different occasions, on February the 14th and the 27th, 2021, Couzens exposed himself to 2 members of staff at a drive-through in Kent. One of the victims said, "I have started to take measures to keep myself safe. I should feel able to walk home while feeling safe." Couzens would not have been sentenced today if it weren't for the bravery of 3 women coming forward.
All have spoken of their sense of freedom and security taken from them, of feeling vulnerable and fearful for themselves and others going about their ordinary lives. One woman, after discovering who had done this and what he had gone on to do, speaks of a wholly understandable sense of survivor's guilt.
After the drive-through incidents where Couzens' car was caught on CCTV, staff reported him to the police. They were given number plate and credit card details, but Couzens wasn't questioned. Just days later, he kidnapped Sarah Everard.
The judge, Mrs Justice May, was damning in her comments at sentencing, saying the fact that no police came to find Wayne Couzens or his black car to question him about these incidents can only have strengthened the defendant's dangerous belief in his invincibility, in his power sexually to dominate and abuse women without being stopped.
Like so many people, I absolutely wish that Wayne Couzens had been arrested for these crimes before he went on to kidnap, rape and murder Sarah Everard. And for that, I'm truly sorry.
Despite emotional impact statements, Couzens, who appeared via video link from prison, showed no remorse. He looked down for the entirety of his sentencing.
A damning indictment indeed to policing for failing that. And my thoughts go out to Sarah Everard and her family, because yet again they're going to be reminded of the failings of police to identify a sexual predator within their rank that actually led to the death of Sarah.
Wayne Couzens denies 3 other indecent exposure allegations from June 2015 to February 2021. Serving a whole life sentence for the murder of Sarah Everard, he will never see freedom, but questions will always remain about why he wasn't stopped earlier. Divya Kohli, ITV News.
Well, women's safety campaigners have criticised the mayor's decision to increase tube, train and bus fares, saying vulnerable women who can't afford a ticket will be forced onto the streets. TfL fares rose by almost 6% yesterday, the biggest hike in London transport prices for more than a decade. It means a Zone 1 journey on the Underground in peak time has increased from £2.50 to £2.90, and a bus ride will cost you 10 pence more. Our political correspondent Simon Harris reports.
Londoners setting off for work on a chilly March morning had one less reason to be happy today. The cost of commuting has gone up again. Bus, tube and train fares are on average almost 6% more expensive than they were last week.
I mean, going to work, it costs you a hell of a lot more money now, and relative to your disposable income, it's ridiculous really, isn't it?
It's not good to increase when their salary is limited.
It's definitely gonna affect to our pockets, yeah.
The Mayor's average fares increase of 5.9% is the biggest fares hike on Transport for London services in more than a decade. On the Tube, a Zone 1 peak hours journey goes from £2.50 to £2.80, an increase of 12%. Bus fares go up 10 pence to £1.75, a rise of 6%. London's mayor claims the 5.9% rise was dictated by ministers as part of the latest funding deal between TfL and the government. He says he had no choice but to put up tube and bus fares in line with national rail fares. It's City Hall policy to encourage so-called active travel, cycling and walking. But for women travelling alone at night, buses, tubes and trains are often a safer bet.
With higher public transport fares, women will be thinking twice about taking those extra journeys at the end of the night. And we don't want to see women stuck on the streets, unable to travel by the safer modes that there are available. It's not fair, and we shouldn't have an increase in fares that could affect women in this way.
April organises walks in parks in Redbridge where women can get together. She too is worried about the impact of the fares increase.
100% it will have an impact, especially on vulnerable women. It should be more affordable, and there should be more nighttime services for us to get home safe.
At City Hall, the Mayor was hosting a women's policy conference. He said smaller increases to some off-peak fares would help.
We've made sure if you're coming into Zone 1 from outer London, the increase is only by 10p. Those in Zone 1, the increase is 30p. So we've tried to find a way to try and spread the increase so it's less high for those women in particular who want to come into Zone 1.
The most expensive way to travel on London's public transport system is to do it the old-fashioned way, buying a ticket from a machine. These cash fares, as they're known, can be more than twice the price of a contactless or Oyster pay-as-you-go fare. Simon Harris, ITV News, Ilford.
2 teenagers have been found guilty of murdering a 16-year-old boy in Hounslow. Venushan Balakrishnan and Ilyas Suleiman mistakenly thought the victim, Rishmeet Singh, belonged to a rival gang. The pair stabbed Rishmeet 15 times while he was defenceless on the floor. They will be sentenced in April. Firefighters have accepted a new pay offer, ending the prospect of strike action. The settlement is for a 7% increase, backdated to July 2022, plus an additional 5% from July this year. And the emergency department at Croydon University Hospital has reopened this afternoon following a suspected arson attack. It's believed the fire was isolated to a consulting room, but 80 patients had to be evacuated. A 53-year-old man has been detained under the Mental Health Act. Next tonight, tickets sold out in just minutes, but now it looks like some of Beyonce's London tour dates could be in jeopardy. The superstar is set to perform at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for 5 nights in May and June. Well, Daniel Henry is outside the stadium for us, and no doubt there are quite a few worried fans. Daniel, so can you talk us through what's happened?
Well, what happened is that Beyonce sold out a show at Tottenham Hotspur, no surprise there. But the surprise is that the special licence that she'll need in order to play in the stadium behind me hasn't been secured yet. And that's a problem for Haringey Council, who who have got a particular number of shows that they will allow to be played at Tottenham Hotspur at any one point during the year. And they say that Beyonce's extra show on June 1st takes them one over that particular limit. So for fans who have got tickets for those shows, well, they're in limbo. They don't know if they're going to be able to see their star. They don't know if they're going to be able to redeem those tickets. But the one thing we do know is that Haringey Council have sent us a statement. They say that while that they are delighted to have fans, well, artists, should I say, like Beyonce, coming to Tottenham Hotspur and wanting to play here, that there is a planning process which has to be observed and that local residents have to be considered. They're disappointed, they say, that it's gotten to this stage, and I'm sure that the fans are too. So for anyone who is hoping to see Beyonce and excited about that, you know, the countdown to see their favourite artist, well, that's not looking so cosy tonight.
All right, Dan, thanks very much. Ahead of International Women's Day on Wednesday, 2 World War II veterans have been celebrated for their contribution to the war. 99-year-old Mildred Schutz and 96-year-old Mari Scott both cut short their education 80 years ago to help Britain by transmitting messages to and from the beaches on D-Day and working on a secret mission to thwart the Nazis in Italy. Rags Martel's been to meet them.
They're remembered now. But for years, these veterans were almost forgotten. As women, their role in the war always came second to men.
I was in communication with the troops as they were landing on the beaches of Normandy.
On duty on D-Day, Mari Scott was working the switchboard in Fort Southwark on the English coast as the liberation of Europe from the Nazis began in 1944.
I heard sounds that I never thought I would ever hear. The sounds of war, gunfire of every description, machine gun, cannon, bombs, men shouting, orders being barked out, men screaming. It was the chaos of war. And at first I was terrified. I thought, I don't think I can do this. I was 17.
What was going through your mind when you heard D-Day happening?
I was so concerned with getting everything through correctly. I knew what was happening. It made such an impression upon my mind that if I were to think about it carefully, I'd hear those sounds now. I think I just grew up that day. I really do. I grew up on D-Day.
Mildred Schutz's involvement is much more secret. Working for special operations, she was sent to war in Italy, but was told she couldn't carry a gun.
Because the women were not armed, according to international law, and also we had a naval commander, and he said a woman with a gun is more trouble than she's worth. Well, I think we've proved he was wrong.
This afternoon, these veterans were driven by the taxi charity to the RAF club on Piccadilly and given a reception of honour ahead of International Women's Day. Do you think the role of women in the war is forgotten?
It's certainly the men who was get a lot more mention, but probably the men did do a great deal more. But we did as much as we possibly could. And I think that gave us a lot more confidence after the war.
We suddenly realised we were capable of doing more complex things. I think it was the beginning of women's liberation.
Their wartime involvement was recognised at the time, although with some objectivity. Now women fight alongside men on the front line, and it's thanks to the female veterans of World War II, who also served. Rags Martel, ITV News.
What an incredible pair of women, aren't they? Right, still to come, the Met Office has been warning of snow tonight, so Sally will have our forecast. And she's also been with some savvy neighbours who are taking on the cost of living crisis one dinner at a time. Plus,
I'll go to LA, open our cupcake takeaway.
does the Great British Bake Off have the right ingredients for a West End show? But first, the London Lions, the capital's only professional basketball team, have just become the first ever British club to qualify for the Euro Cup playoffs. They still have 4 games to go until they enter the playoff rounds, but that doesn't mean they haven't amped up their training, as Kath Opata reports.
Rather hopefully. Oh, nice Eurostep. Wow, great body control there.
This was the moment where the London Lions beat Germany's Hamburg Towers, earning them a place in the Euro Cup playoffs and making them the first UK team to do so. But there's no rest for these victors 1 week after their last game, and they're back on the court, prepping for their next match.
Although the Lions are already in the playoffs, winning their next games means going up against a lower ranked side, which means doing more of this and less of this.
So it turns out I need a bit more coaching. The man in charge of that for this team is former NBA coach Ryan Schmidt.
It's been a good season, thus far. This is the important part of the season as we get into March, April, and May. We've talked about that for really progressing all through even the fall and the winter.
What's the message to your team for the next couple of matches?
To my team?
Yeah.
Go win.
Winning the cup might seem like a tall order for a team that's yet to taste gold, but the players say they are ready for the challenge.
It's going to take ultra focus and some intensity for us to get ready for that playoff push. But we're excited. We're proud of what we've done so far. But we understand we have a team that can go a long ways and be ready to play in those big moments.
I think we're all excited to get after it. It's been a strong last couple of games in the BBL. I think, especially offensively, we've got the ball moving. Everyone's getting involved. So if we can just carry that over to Euro Cup, I think we should be good.
In 2 days, the London Lions will be heading off to Poland to shoot their shots. The question now is, will they be sinking baskets or heading back to the drawing board? Kath Opata, ITV News, East London Sports Doc.
Football and Arsenal's women celebrated victory in the Continental League Cup final last night. They came from a goal down to beat Chelsea 3-1 in front of 20,000 fans at Selhurst Park. Coach Jonas Eidevall said the ambition is for the Gunners to be the best team in women's football in England. It's Arsenal's first trophy for 4 years. Now, you'll need to have a slice of humour for this one. One of the nation's favourite TV shows has been transformed into an all-singing, all-dancing show on the West End. The Great British Bake Off the Musical opens tonight at the Noel Coward Theatre, and Helen Keenan is there for us now. Helen.
Not really what comes to mind, is it? A stage show of a reality TV show, but that is what they've whisked together. See what I did there? Now, I'm joined now by one of the finalists of Great British Bake Off,
Hello.
Christelle. Now,
thank you for having
this
me.
has all been in the works, hasn't it, for about 6 years?
Yeah.
What were your first thoughts, though, when you thought Great British Bake Off, a musical?
Honestly, I was ecstatic because I'm a big musical theatre fan and obviously I'm a Bake Off fan. I was intrigued because I was thinking, how can you turn a reality show that lasts for 10 weeks into a musical that lasts, 2 hours? But I was ecstatic because I was thinking this is great, and also baking is very wholesome, musicals are very wholesome, so the whole thing just felt very wholesome and happy and just fantastic, to be honest.
Look, you've got to tell us, what was it like competing on the Great British Bake Off? What secrets can you reveal?
It was hands down the most stressful but the most enjoyable thing I've done. Basically, I call it an in part intensive baking camp, part holiday, because some parts you're like, this is great, it's the most incredible, heartwarming experience ever, but when you're there baking, trying to make a cake that defies gravity in 4 hours, it's very stressful. And when it's hot, you've got sweat dripping down your face, you've got cameras on you. It's all a lot, but it's so fun. Yeah.
So have you been tasked with creating the cakes for this show, then? Susie's just such a pro.
Do you know what? I haven't actually. I don't know why. I feel like if there were cakes, I should be making them.
Whoa. We need to follow up on this. Right, come on. We've got the writers here, Jake and Pippa. What's going on? Why is she not making the cakes?
Well, there's so many contestants. We wouldn't like to show favouritism towards anyone.
See how it is.
Yeah. I heard they're not real cakes. Is that the real truth?
We can reveal that they are not real, but we've done something very special with them. You'll just have to watch
They
and
look
find
amazing,
out. They are incredible.
Alice and Robin have designed them. Who are the designers? They're just
They are like
amazing.
the best props the West End has ever seen.
Yes.
So I've got to ask you, why bring the Bake Off to the stage?
Well, as Christelle said, it's the perfect vehicle for a musical. If you think about things like Cats and a chorus line, really they're just characters coming together in a location. And the kitchen, the benches and the tent is the best place to bring people from all around the world and with different stories and backstories together for a really wholesome, happy, fun musical.
And you say, why a musical? Because, of course, what musicals give you is that reason to go a bit deeper. You're singing in songs, so maybe we discover a little bit more about why they're baking, what brought them here. So we were able to really explore the deeper side to every personality. It was such a joy to write.
So look, how do you prepare for this? Is it watching every episode of Bake Off? Is it just eating loads of cake?
That too, yeah.
Well, we loved the show. There was a no-brainer. When they called us to ask if we were interested in writing it, we were like, 100%.
Yeah, we'd already watched it all, so we were desperate to do it.
You're already big fans.
Yeah,
Huge
exactly.
fans, yeah.
So when you're putting, together a show like this, it's such a well-loved programme, does that add to the pressure a little bit to get it just right?
Yeah, but we were really lucky because obviously Love Productions have been with us all the way. So every time we had a question or weren't sure if something was going to work, we just went to them. And yeah, there were some, challenging bits like what to get the tone right and everything. But it's been a really joyful journey. So yeah, we've been really supportive. So hopefully we've done them proud.
So have Paul and Prue been to see it?
They have. Paul came actually on Saturday last week, and afterwards he went in to give me a handshake to say congratulations.
And you went in for a hug.
And I just nervously went straight in for a hug instead. But he's got a lovely coat.
Yeah, I
very,
went for
very
a double
smooth.
hug as well. So we hugged. It was all grand. Yeah.
So you seem to get the seal of approval from them then?
Hopefully.
did, yeah.
He's bringing his mum next week, so that bodes well.
That is good news. Well, it certainly is, isn't it? Because that sounds to me like you've got the Hollywood handshake.
I think I can go on the poster, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. That's what you need up there. Well, there you go. If you do want to catch the show, this is the opening night in the West End at the Noel Coward Theatre, and it'll be on for how long?
12 weeks.
12 weeks. There you go. Plenty of time to catch it.
All right, thanks very much, Helen. Well, Sally's joined us in the studio. Now, I'm going to continue with the food theme.
Yummy, please do.
But we're going to go from cake to potatoes. So what have you been up to today?
Well, I absolutely love the Bake Off. And today I was reminded I absolutely love potatoes, especially when they're smothered in salt and all the other most amazing things on them. And this community in Walthamstow had a great idea. It started off as a way of reducing their carbon footprint, but actually it's a great idea for the cost of living crisis. They get together and they cook as many potatoes as they can in one oven. And also, most importantly, Mother, it means that on some nights you don't have to cook.
Amazing.
Your dinner gets dropped off. Let's take a look.
My apologies if this is making you hungry, but just look at that. A fresh, hot, crispy, salty jacket potato.
Then imagine someone turns up at your door with said hot potato, enough for you and your family, dinner ready to go. This story just gets better and better.
Well, that's what happens on Potato Mondays in a Walthamstow community, and B is on duty tonight.
Important question, B. Are you a pricker? Do you pierce the potato?
Maybe controversial, but I don't tend to prick my potatoes. I tend to
Wow.
oil them, bit of salt, roll them all around.
To save energy and money, one house will cook potatoes for tea in their oven for several other families on the street and then drop them round. An idea that was cooked up by Adam to save carbon.
We've got a really active WhatsApp group locally, so I just put a little thread on that and said who wants to have a potato this evening, and some people said, yeah, that sounds nice, why not? And then it all went from there, really.
They smell amazing, don't they?
They do, they do. Yeah, the whole house smell of them.
Is the aroma making you feel hungry?
Oh, definitely.
Months later, it's still going with a roster in place now, and neighbour Martina loves it.
On a Monday, the doorbell goes, does it?
Yes.
And what happens in your house?
When they do, they're expecting the potatoes, so they go, potatoes! And everybody runs downstairs with a bowl, and they get to pick their potatoes from the person delivering that week.
But I did have one question for today's cook about saving more energy.
Yeah. Now, when I first heard about this, my instant reaction was, why don't you just put the potatoes in the microwave? Do you do that?
Well, yes, everyone does it differently. I tend to put them in the microwave and do it half in the microwave.
And of course, not everyone has one, so it's definitely a step forward, and for Adam, only the start.
And so if we keep doing everything that we can to change our habits, then we stand a chance of maybe helping slower moving governmental policy changes that will end up making a real difference to our sort of global climate targets.
So there you have it. Carbon saver, cost saver, time saver, and my lunch, given I put my fingers all over it. I'll see you back in the studio.
And I'm not the only one who forgot my cutlery today. But when something's that tasty, well, why wait?
I'll tell you what, a nice warm hot potato.
I told you.
will come in really handy this week, 'cause it's going to be cold, isn't it?
Yes, I know. It looks like we might well have the ingredients for some snow, and as a result, we've got a warning in place. You can see it here for potentially snow and ice from tonight through till tomorrow morning. There may well be further outbreaks of sleet and snow throughout tomorrow and possibly Wednesday as well.
But is it going to settle?
Well, there might be a little bit of accumulation, but maybe mostly on higher ground, and we could get some slush around, but it doesn't look like it's going to settle. And actually, as we get towards the end of the week, the temperatures are going to come up again. So whereas we had it lasting for quite a while in December, sledging to school and all that, I'm not sure that's going to happen this time, which is a bit of a shame. But anyway, we don't want it too cold. Let's take a look.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles. Car, charger and energy.
Hello again. I hope you had a lovely Monday. Now, it looks like we are going to put spring to bed for the next few days, and the beautiful photos as well, in favour of something a bit more wintry. This, in fact, was a sleet shower in Twickenham today. So, of course, we need the rain. It's been so dry, but there is a risk of that rain turning to sleet and snow, as we've discussed, overnight tonight and tomorrow, and the snow and ice warning is in place until 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Feeling much colder as well tomorrow. Already quite chilly, but it will feel noticeably cooler tomorrow. So let's take a look at the detail for you. So this evening we have got some showers still moving through. As we go through the night, they might become a little bit more organised into bands of rain, but it's really in the second half of the night as that cool air sets in, cold air sets in. That's when we've got a higher risk of that rain turning to sleet and snow, more likely on higher ground, but possibly in other places as well. And it's going to be a cold night and a cold start to the day tomorrow, and a fairly miserable one as well, with that rain and of course that sleet and snow. The warning, as I said, in place till 10 o'clock. Watch out for that. There could well be some travel disruption. We're not expecting too much accumulation of snow, but there could be a bit here or there, and there could well be some slush around. It is gradually improving from the north as we go through the day, but the devil is in the detail, and it's going to be chilly. It may well feel colder than that, with the conditions close to around freezing. As we go through the latter part of the afternoon and into the evening, though, you can see things improve, things dry up, but with clearer skies, we've got a widespread frost on Tuesday night and a cold start on Wednesday, and again on Wednesday, the risk of further sleet and snow showers. But as the temperatures come up through the week, less chance of anything too wintry. And by Friday, we'll probably be talking about the winds. That's it for now. See you later on. Cheerio.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles.
All right, that's all we've got time for. Mary's up next with the ITV Evening News. But for me and the rest of the London team, enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.